So we're going to take a look at an example of this workflow. Now, to recap, our goal is that we want to use natural language to monitor and administrate FME flow. The reason we want to do this is because manual processes can be tedious and existing workflows may not be well organized. We'll solve the problem by using MCP tools that leverage FME's various APIs. As a result, we will get fast and efficient administration of FME flow. So with that, let's jump into the demo. So I'm in a simple workspace that creates a new queue on FME flow using the REST-v4 API. The user parameter values on the left will be the values the AI populates into my workspace. In this workspace, I'm using a parameter fetcher, although I could also just directly use the user values as well. It's really up to you. So I'm using an HTTP caller. You can see I am using the queue's endpoint. It's a post request. I have my credentials in here, and I'm simply just populating those parameters into the request body of this endpoint. In FME Flow, I have an MCP server for admin tools. To create a tool, I just have to give the tool its descriptive name, a description of what the tool is used for, when to use it. I need to select the workspace that this tool is going to call. And optionally, I can set a queue and a job expiry time. So I also have my parameters here, the same ones in the workspace. I've given them a description of what they're for as well. We can choose if they're default or not. We can also hide parameters as well. So for example, I don't want Claude to choose the web connection I'm using. So here I'm in FME Flow and I have Claude Desktop open on the right, connected to my MCP toolset. Now this is the easiest way to get started using MCP tools with an existing client. I'm going to take a random job ID from my jobs page, but we can also imagine receiving this job ID from an automation that sends us an email about a failed or successful job. Now, jobs can be tedious to look through, and maybe I don't want to sift through 20 pages of job logs to get the information I want. Instead, I just specify what exactly I'm looking for. So Claude is going to call this tool and fetch me back all those specific requirements I asked for. And it's even converting kilobytes to megabytes for the memory usage, which makes my job a bit easier. So as well, I can also create my own client, and this just gives me a little bit more flexibility. So in this case, we are going to create a new engine assignment rule. And I might be unsure of how to do that. I might be new to this system. And so I can just directly ask the AI as well, and it can tell me how to do that. So here I've asked Gemini, how do I create assign engines to a queue? It's given me a description of the tool. It's telling me first I have to use the list FME flow engines tool to get the exact names, and then to call the create FME flow engines rule. It's also telling me the parameters, which ones are required, which ones are optional, and what these parameters actually mean. So I can just directly ask which engines are available, and I don't have to specify a specific tool name here either. So I'll just ask to assign localhost engines 4 and 5 to the very important jobs queue. I'll specify that it should be enabled and that it should be called the very important jobs rule. So Gemini informs us that it has done this. And so I'll just refresh the page, double check, and we can see that we have 2 engines assigned and a new rule created. So as we've seen, AI can be helpful for pulling information about the FME flow environment. Here, I will use the metrics endpoint to get the number of jobs run in the data virtualization queue by the hour for the last 4 hours. So I get the answer I'm looking for, but it's not very easy to read. Gemini 2.0 is a pretty old model, and I believe it's been retired at this point. So using ChatGPT 5.1, it's a little bit more of an advanced model. It'll take a little bit longer to run, but I get a much more detailed answer. You can see I have a nice table here as well, and some metrics that I didn't even ask for. Maybe I'm a little bit more of a visual person, and I want to see this as a bar chart. ChatGPT has tried to create one for me, but I actually have an MCP tool that runs a workspace and can do this for me. And so this is where you want to shore up your system prompt or system information, maybe say always default to using an MCP tool if one is available. So in this case, I'll specify directly to use that MCP tool. And we can see that it's found the workspace and given me this chart back. Now, in that workspace, I have the option to either specify a pie chart or a bar chart. So this time I'll just specify a pie chart. It runs the MCP workspace again, and I get a different result. So taking a look at the workspace, it looks very similar to the first one we looked at. We have our user parameters on the left side. We have an HTTP caller, and those user parameters are being directly input inside. And then we are routing the user's request based on whether they specified a bar chart or a pie chart. The graph is created. So we get a PNG. We're going to turn that into a blob. And then once we have our blob, we're going to feed that to a MCP writer, which will format that request back in a format that Claude can, or whatever AI you're using, ingest. So just like that, we can create a handy little AI assistant to help us manage and inform us about things that are happening with our flow environment.